Samuel Huntington, a renowned Western scholar, once stated in his famous work The Clash of Civilizations that China is not a nation, but a civilization pretending to be a nation. This statement is not only a sharp observation but also reflects a profound historical perspective on the existence and development of China over thousands of years. In the history of humanity, there were once four great civilizations: ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, ancient India, and ancient China. However, while the first three civilizations have vanished in the flow of history, Chinese civilization has endured, standing resilient through millennia. Why is this so? The reason, as Huntington and many other scholars have pointed out, lies in the strength of a civilizational organism, a political, cultural, and social system designed to maintain cohesion and perpetuate the civilization. The key figure behind this success is none other than Qin Shi Huang, the emperor hailed as the emperor of all ages. So, what did he do to address the issue of the organism of civilization? Whether one admires China or not, we must acknowledge that China is indeed a colossal civilization. Today, let's explore this together. Qin Shi Huang and the unification of civilization. To understand why China has endured, we must return to the era of Qin Shi Huang, the figure who laid the foundation for the cultural and political cohesion of the Chinese nation. In history, ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Babylon, and India declined because they could not maintain an effective governance system over vast territories or lacked a unified cultural foundation to bind their people. China, however, was different. It found a way to address this issue through a centralized power model. Pioneered by Qin Shi Huang, Qin Shi Huang made four major contributions. First, the unification of the writing system. This was the most critical factor in this success. China is a vast country with numerous dialects, so diverse that people from different regions could hardly understand each other when speaking. However, when they picked up a brush, it was a different story. They all wrote in the same Chinese script. The unification of the writing system created a shared cultural identity, enabling people from all regions to feel they belonged to the same nation, the same civilization. The script was not merely a tool for communication but also a thread that wove together the culture, history, and ideology of an entire nation. Second, the unification of measurements. Qin Shi Huang standardized units of measurement such as weight, length, and volume. This not only reduced transaction costs in trade but also facilitated unified governance across the country. Third, the unification of currency. A standardized currency system replaced the various currencies of the feudal states during the Warring States period, strengthening economic integration and reducing friction in commerce. Fourth, the unification of axle widths. Standardizing the width of cart axles across the territory allowed roads to be used more efficiently, promoting trade and connectivity between regions. Among these, the unification of the writing system was the core. It was not merely about standardizing script but about building a shared cultural foundation, thereby creating a national identity. A nation with a vast territory, a large population, and diverse dialects, yet connected by a unified writing system. This is the unique strength of China. The centralized power model, the solution for longevity. Before Qin Shi Huang's time, China operated under a decentralized feudal system, similar to the vassal states during the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods. In this system, the king, son of heaven, delegated power to vassal lords, who in turn delegated power to their subordinates. However, this model revealed two major issues. First, internal instability. Vassal lords and their subordinates constantly sought to overthrow their superiors to seize power, leading to societal instability. Endless wars among the feudal states weakened the overall strength of the civilization. Second, lack of uniformity. Each region had its own writing system, measurements, currency, and culture, resulting in incompatibility between areas. This increased governance costs and hindered the development of a unified nation. Qin Shi Huang's centralized power model decisively addressed both issues. By abolishing the feudal system and establishing a strong central government, he minimized internal conflicts and created a more efficient governance system. The unification of the writing system, measurements, currency, And axle widths not only reduced governance costs but also established a prototype for centralized power. A model suited to the characteristics of an agricultural society with low productivity and rudimentary communication. However, at the time, not everyone understood the profound significance of this model. After the fall of the Qin dynasty, Shang Yu, who overthrew the Qin, reverted to a decentralized system, leading to widespread chaos. Liu Bang, after defeating Shang Yu, initially delegated power to his allies and sons. But this resulted in continuous rebellions, such as the Rebellion of the Seven States during the Han Dynasty. Ultimately, the Han Dynasty had to return to the centralized power model of the Qin to stabilize the country. Confucianism as the dominant ideology, the cultural thread binding the bureaucracy. Another critical step in consolidating Chinese civilization was Emperor Wu of Han's decision to elevate Confucianism as the dominant ideology. In an agricultural society with limited communication technology, officials in different regions needed a shared ideology to ensure unity in action and thought. Confucianism, with its core values of loyalty, filial piety, benevolence, and propriety, became the guiding principle for the bureaucratic system. Imagine if officials held different ideologies, one following Confucianism, another legalism, and another Taoism, how chaotic the governance system would become. Each official would have a different worldview and behavior, leading to inconsistent policies and increased governance costs. Confucianism provided a unified trinity of perspectives, worldview, philosophy of life, and values, enabling officials from different regions to share a common understanding of the world and behavior. Moreover, the imperial examination system, developed during the Sui and Tang dynasties, used Confucian ideology as the standard for evaluating officials. All scholars across the country studied the same texts, the 4 books and 5 classics, and wrote in the same Chinese script. This not only unified the bureaucratic system but also created a strong cultural cohesion nationwide. Whether in the deserts of the Northwest or the fertile lands of the South, all literate people felt they belonged to the same nation, the same civilization. Cultural cohesion, the strength of China. This cultural cohesion is precisely why China has endured while other civilizations collapsed. While Western empires like Rome, Persia, or the Ottoman Empire existed only as fleeting flashes in history, China has maintained its unity and national identity for thousands of years. After the fall of Western empires, they often fragmented into smaller nations, and their people lost interest in restoring the glory of the old empire. For example, no European today dreams of reviving the Roman Empire. In contrast, in China, despite wars or divisions, the aspiration for unification has always been an inevitable trend. China's cultural cohesion is vividly demonstrated through historical and modern events. During the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, thousands of volunteers from across the country rushed to the disaster area to provide aid. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, millions of people, from healthcare workers to volunteers, risked their lives to support Wuhan. These actions are not only expressions of compassion but also evidence of the deep cultural cohesion and sense of national responsibility. Comparison with the West. The difference in identity. The difference between China and Western nations lies in how they face disasters and build national identity. In Western mythology, when faced with a flood, people built Noah's Ark to escape. In contrast, in China, the legendary hero Yu the Great led the people to control the flood, building irrigation systems to protect the land. This spirit, the spirit of fighting against nature and adversity, has been deeply ingrained in Chinese culture. Passed down from generation to generation, Western nations, particularly in Europe, often built their identity based on ethnicity or religion. After the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe fragmented into small nations based on distinct languages, ethnicities, and religions. Even Napoleon's attempts to unify Europe were seen as invasions rather than unification. In contrast, in China, despite geographic and cultural differences between regions, all people identify as descendants of the Yan and Huang emperors, bound by the Chinese script and Confucian ideology. Modern China, the continuation of a civilization. In 2012, Henry Kissinger, in his book on China, remarked that China's decline in modern history was merely a brief accident. For much of its history, China stood at the pinnacle of the world, and its modern rise is simply a return to its natural state as a great civilization. Since 1949, under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the country has regained its unity and strength. From a poor and resource-scarce nation, China has built a complete industrial system and become the world's second-largest economy within a few decades. China's ability to organize and mobilize its people is astonishing to the world. During the COVID-19 pandemic, China built field hospitals in 10 days, implemented effective lockdowns, and mobilized millions to control the outbreak. These achievements are not only due to the strong leadership of the Communist Party but also the cultural foundation and national spirit established since the time of Qin Shi Huang. Conclusion: a lasting civilization. Whether one admires China or not, we must acknowledge that China is not just a nation but indeed a civilization masquerading as a nation. The longevity of Chinese civilization is not accidental but the result of a centralized governance system, a unified culture, and a strong national spirit. From Qin Shi Huang's unification of the writing system and power to Emperor Wu of Han's elevation of Confucianism, and to the modern leadership of the Communist Party, China has continuously refined the organism of its civilization, enabling it to endure for thousands of years. While Western empires were mere fleeting flashes in history, China has proven that a civilization with strong cultural cohesion and exceptional organizational capacity can endure and thrive. This is why China is not merely a nation but a colossal civilization cloaked as a nation, a unique phenomenon in human history.